Hey guys, happy Wednesday night. So I finished Daredevil Born Again episode 7 last night, and I wanted to give my full review and share my thoughts with you guys. If you enjoyed my reviews from previous experience, make sure you, of course, drop that like and share the video with all your friends so that way we can push it out to more people. So, Daredevil Born Again episode 7 followed from episode 6. We started with Angela in the hospital, and she gets to go home, and that was great. And I loved how that was executed and how she feels like she has to do something about all the problems that are happening. And the detectives and the witnesses wanted to find out where Muse's hideout were, so they were asking her questions. And so that ended up being what it was, which was pretty interesting. Fisk is making more movement with his anti-vigilante task force. They're trying to figure out Muse's hideout, all this stuff. A lot of background politics going on between Vanessa and Fisk. We explored Matt and Heather's relationship a lot more in this episode, which I thought was really interesting. I liked how they handled exploring their relationship, how she's worried because Matt has been out at night, and we started the episode with Matt and Heather having a shower, and it was interesting. I will say this show, you can kind of tell that because of the editing and stuff that Disney has changed, whether keeping the blood and violence, they've changed some of the essence of the original Daredevil show that I'm not really a big fan of. Like, the intimate scenes used to be a bit more meaningful, and this one, it didn't really feel like it was that great. It still felt like these two love each other, but I don't know, it just didn't give that feeling that the original Daredevil show had. Besides the points, yeah, so we had Fisk. Fisk has his new Lieutenant Buck working for him, and he's kind of like his personal James Bond, which we get into later in the episode. So they're doing tasks. His other right hand ends up blackmailing BB, Ben York's niece, and so that ends up becoming a whole thing. So Fisk's cabinet is getting quite powerful, but also this episode kicks off with reeling the events from the story of going up against the serial killer. When reeling from the events, you actually see something involving, you actually see that when hearing about Muse, apparently Fisk is worried that Daredevil's back, and it turns out that he's right. And then when his task force go to inspect the hideout, Matt knocks out one of the guys, and they find out that it is indeed Matthew Murdock, or not Matthew Murdock, Daredevil. And Fisk throws a fit about it. It causes a problem. And then, so then as the episode goes through, we spend a majority of this episode with Heather and Muse, and we learn quite a bit more about Muse's backstory. And Muse basically was into Taekwondo and competed, which is why he was such a good, formidable match for Daredevil in episode 6. But what happened ultimately was Muse ended up killing his Taekwondo instructor, as we learned from what Fisk's team was able to uncover since he has access to the cops. And so that ended up being great. Vincent D'Onofrio is great in this episode. Troy Cox is great in this episode. And then we get there's a great conversation between Heather and Muse is I think his name's Cooper. Cooper reveals himself to be Muse to Heather and captures her and basically stabs into her organs and so that he can take and use her blood for his paintings. But right as she could be inches away from losing so much blood and be in the hospital for her life, you see Matt Murdock swoop in as Daredevil and confront Muse. It's a quick scene, but it's a cool fight scene. A little bit too much editing for my taste. Like, I like the blood. I think it was brutal. I think the fight could have been a lot better considering the first fight. There was some cool kicks. Muse doing some cool counters. Daredevil using the billy clubs is cool. I liked when he threw the billy club into Muse's eye. But it just didn't have that oomph of the episode 6 fight, in my opinion. And lacked aura. But it was still a good fight. Muse is now dead, that we know of, but I do believe that he will return in some form in season 2. And I really think the Muse storyline has been one of the worst Achilles heels of this show, other than the editing and some of the other issues that plague it, because basically I feel like the Muse storyline feels forced. Well, not forced. It feels rushed. It feels like we raced to the end. We should have had an entire episode of Heather and Muse, not just a few scenes. And we should have had a whole season of getting to learn each other's psyche. That would have been better. And then the episode ends with basically Heather goes to the hospital and Heather realizes that, Heather was the one that shot Muse. Heather ends up going and she ends up doing her thing where she's talking to Matt in the hospital, and Matt basically lies to her through her teeth. We even find out that Heather tells Muse before she takes him out that he's a coward for hiding behind a mask, and only cowards wear masks. And I think this is going to come back to bite Matt and Heather's relationship coming up in the next couple episodes. But overall, then we end the episode with Fisk went to go have dinner and deal with a client, and they end up trying to take out Fisk, and so Fisk and Vanessa are kind of at odds against each other. But Fisk is trying to help Vanessa, bring her back some food or whatever. He's trying to enjoy his meal. But then his assassin kills the guy that comes in for him, and we end the episode with stuff like that. Going over the serial killer files, everything that happened with Muse, and then going over with what happened with Buck and Fisk, setting up episode 8. This episode, it's not the worst episode of the season. You can feel the growing pains from the previous team in this episode. I really felt like the editing was weird. It was a solid episode, but I had some issues with it. It felt like a Arrested Development episode, mixed with some of those other lawyer courtroom shows. But overall, I'm going to give it since it had a good fight scene, I'll give it a decent fight scene. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. It was an okay episode. It wasn't great, but it was good. Good, not great. Actually, since it's good, not great, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's not the worst episode of the season, but it's not the best. I enjoyed it. Can't wait for episode 8. What did you guys think about Daredevil Born Again episode 7? Let me know your thoughts, and as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.